Okay, let's start by establishing a common language to understand what boards do, what managers do, and how projects fits in with what boards and managers are both trying to achieve. Those of you who have got a good understanding of this, you don't need to listen to this video, but I find most people like to get this background. So let's get started. What do boards do? Well, you can see a picture in here of a board meeting. The usually older people and quite often male-dominated board sit around a table and they discuss things. What are they doing? And then after the board meeting, there are more discussions, one-on-one discussions, and there's a lot of drinking. And again, that's the board at work. What are they actually doing? It's good to understand that a board is a panel of people who have been elected to represent the shareholders. Every public company needs to have a board, but other companies like the nonprofits and private companies, even though they don't have to have a board, they often choose to have a board because it helps them to achieve their goal. So what does a board do? Let's have a look at it from this perspective. A board of directors reports to the shareholders. And inside the board of directors, they have a number of committees, a nomination and remuneration committee, who should be on the board and how much should they be paid. They have an investment committee, where should we be spending our money? And that's probably the most important committee from a project perspective. There's a risk management committee and an audit committee to make sure the annual reports are true and fair. Reporting to the board of directors is the executive committee, and reporting to the executive committee are all the rest of the management team. So this is a board of directors. Now, what are they doing? In a very broad sense, the board of directors has the fiduciary duty. They make sure that the management spend the money in a responsible way, and they create dividend policies. They hire and fire the senior executives, especially the CEO. They establish how much the executive should be paid. They support their executives and their teams. Many board members used to be CEOs themselves, so they understand the thinking behind the CEO. And one of the biggest decisions at that senior level is, what is the company's goal? What is the company's strategy? What are we trying to be in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now? How do we make sure we are successful in the future? So the board maybe will set the strategy, but quite often will approve the strategy or discuss the strategy with the senior management. So boards govern. Now, what do managers do? It depends very much on what level of management. If you're a senior management, you're focused on the 3 to 5 years into the future. How do we make sure that we are successful in the future? We set goals which are something like to increase revenue by 10%, by improving our supply chain, by merging and acquiring other companies. It's a 3 to 10 year perspective on how do we remain successful. At the middle management level, we're more focused on the annual plan, the tactical decisions. How do we meet our budget for that year? How do we reduce our costs? So that's a middle management consideration. And then at an operational level, this is a daily or a weekly thinking. How many orders to take? How many orders to place? How much are we going to sell? How do we make sure our purchasing is under control, our warehousing, our manufacturing, and our sales? So keeping everything going on a day-to-day basis. So that's what managers do. So the top manager is thinking quite a long way ahead. The middle manager is thinking maybe about 1 year ahead, and the operational manager thinking days and weeks into the future. How does that work with projects? Well, I'd like you to think of this diagram as the operational level. And we've got IT at one level and business at another level. And these two work together like Siamese twins. They help each other to keep running. And we run projects. When we do projects, the reason we do a project is, in some cases, just to change the IT. but in most cases to change the business as well. So when you have a lot of change, this is trying to get some future goal. So operations on the left, strategy on the right, projects being the bridge to get from where we are here now to where we want to be in the future. And governance is overseeing all this to make sure that things run well and the current level, and that we will achieve our desired future state through projects. So this is the relationship between projects, operations, management, and the board. The board cares about governance. The board cares about strategy. Top management set the strategy. Projects deliver the strategy. So I'd like you to very quickly think about whether this brief presentation was valuable for you. Before this presentation, what was your knowledge of the role of the board like? Was it poor, below average, average, above average, or excellent? And management, how well did you know the role of management? And lastly, how well did you know the relationship between project strategy and governance? So I'm sorry you can't click on this in the video, but it would be nice for you just to think whether that was valuable or not so valuable. We've finished the first section, and now we're going to go on to the video on corporate governance and project governance.